Welcome to Who Knew. We are fans of the current series of Doctor Who, and here we discuss our likes, dislikes, and insights into the modern regeneration of the show. Visit our website, whoknewpodcast.com, or email us at whoknewpodcast@gmail.com. Find us on Twitter and on Facebook at Who Knew Podcast. Subscribe, review, and listen to us on iTunes and Stitcher, or our YouTube channel, youtube.com/whoknewpodcast. Today we're taking a quick trip in the Tardis with Torchwood Season 1.
So we're all going to be a lot more violent and yelling at each other.
I'm already depressed.
What were we doing before?
So I don't change very much, right?
See? Hi, this is Eugene. Let's introduce who else is here.
Well, hello, this is Frank.
And this is Kelsey.
Hello, this is Auburn.
Hi, this is Arlene.
Hi, this is Brian.
Torchwood, as we know and discussed previously, was started by Queen Victoria in response to the Doctor's appearance in Tooth and Claw, and also in response to the extraterrestrial threats. Frank, you want to discuss the Torchwood locations and numbers and all that?
In the first episode of Torchwood, Captain Jack meets Gwen. She's Gwen Cooper, and he explains that Torchwood 1 was in London, and that's Canary Wharf, and that's what was destroyed. That was the Torchwood Tower, destroyed by the Cybermen and Dalek
in Doomsday
battle. Torchwood 2 was an office in Glasgow, and just run by a very strange man. And it seemed like was it just one man for Torchwood?
That's what it sounded like.
It sounded like, not the charge of it all. Torchwood 3 is called The Hub, and that's the setting for this series. And it consists of a 5-person team of Captain Jack Harkness, who is the leader. There's Toshiko Sato, who is a computer specialist. Owen Harper, who is a medical specialist. There's Susie Costello, and she kind of does everything, and she's working with the alien artifacts and trying to make them work.
I thought she was like the engineer. What does Jack say?
He says that she's second in command.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's okay. And second in command. But it seems like she's second in command, but she's also seemed more inclusive of the actual artifacts. At least there's one in the opening that she was trying to make work, which is the glove. And then there's Ianto Jones, which is basically, in the first episode, Jeeves. He's just the man who knows how to make everything work and run in
front desk,
bureaucracy. He just
I would call him
help
the
out.
receptionist.
Jack of all trades.
Administrative, yeah. He's
Office manager.
Office manager.
But throughout the season, he gets a little bit more. You get to see what else he does. So that was Torchwood 3. And then Torchwood 4, well, it's kind of gone missing. And hopefully someday we'll find it. So that's all he pretty much says.
This pilot episode has we have a sort of story with myself and Brian. I went to Comic-Con one year, and this was before it premiered, and we have they were giving out DVDs of that pilot episode, and I remember watching it in, I think it was Brian's office at the time, and we were like, this show looks so bad.
It was a weird copy.
It was all the special effects shots just looked horrible, and
Yeah.
I think it was the PAL to NTSC conversion that made it look that way.
It looked like a cheap soap opera from the 80s.
But that was my first exposure to Torchwood, and it made me not want to go back. But then Brian had the opposite effect, I guess.
Well, yeah, we kind of got interested. We liked Captain Jack.
Well, he's kind of very hot, so.
So we watched a few episodes and then realized it was a Doctor Who spinoff, I think. I don't think we knew it was a Doctor Who spinoff.
Oh, when we first started watching?
Yeah.
No, that's what got us back into Doctor Who.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
It's like, oh, they're doing a spin-off of this, so let's watch this character's episodes and story arc on Doctor Who. Because when we first started
you're jumping
watching
ahead. I'm saying we watched Torchwood, and then with Torchwood, we went, this is a spin-off of Doctor Who, and then we went back and watched Captain Jack's episodes in Doctor Who to see if we would like Doctor Who.
That's exactly what he just
No.
That's
said.
what Frankie said.
No, he didn't.
what I'm hearing is we went back to watch the Captain Jack episodes of Doctor Who before Torchwood aired. Now, you may have watched this with Eugene, the pilot, before that. But when you and I watched it, it was like, Torchwood is coming out. It's about Captain Jack. Let's find out who this character is and see if we want to start watching Torchwood. So we went back and watched the Doctor Who episodes that had Captain Jack, and that's when we said, Doctor Who's pretty good. Because we like the classic, and I remember the first episode we didn't get into, the Rose episode. So when we started watching the Captain Jack episodes, we went back, and that's when we started watching all Doctor Who season 1. And then we had caught up, and then we watched it as it was airing.
I heard the same thing from both of you.
I think Brian cheated on me with Captain Jack.
That's
I think
a pass,
he watched.
right? That's allowed.
I think he watched
Brian watched Torchwood alone.
Torchwood first and didn't tell me, and saw that with Eugene because I did not know that they got a copy and had seen that before.
It's one of the celebrities that's allowed, right?
I remember that Captain Jack was so different in Torchwood than he was in Doctor Who. The characterization, the humor, the lightheartedness, the con man had gone away, replaced by somebody who was just sad, depressed. It wasn't fun, but the whole tone of the show was so different.
I was saying, well, Captain Jack isn't as charming in this series.
He's not.
I don't know. It's just there's nothing lighthearted about him. There's nothing too charismatic or someone who's trying to, get on your good side. It's just, I guess they try to write it into the character, but it falls flat with such a serious tone of the whole series.
I don't know if it's serious, but it's dark.
Yeah.
Well, I do remember reading that Russell wanted Torchwood to be for adults, wanted it darker, but he was still working on Doctor Who. And so he let the people who were running Torchwood and writing it, go their own way. And it was like giving them some input. But once he saw it, going, whoa, that's a lot darker than I intended it to go.
Yeah, he didn't mean it to be this dark.
Yeah, because Russell was spread thin, I think, at this moment, because he was also doing Sarah Jane Adventures, Torchwood, and Doctor Who, the series. So, he had to kind of let people run with the other two shows, and he couldn't oversee. Yeah.
He wrote the pilot, and the pilot is very, very dark, people are swearing. I was kind of surprised watching the Blu-ray because I think I had only seen it on TV where they cut the swearing out. But there's a lot of swearing in this. And I remember thinking, wow, this is not Doctor Who. And then, there's so much death in it and, guns being fired. And it's just like, this is not Doctor Who. It's very, very dark. So he kind of set it up that way, is what I'm saying. But then they did go very, very dark in later episodes.
Yeah, so what we're discussing now is season 1 and how it relates to the episodes in Doctor Who that we have followed. And Torchwood sort of starts I wouldn't say just with Tooth and Claw, but we go all the way back to the Ninth Doctor and the Unquiet Dead, where we have the Gelf and the Rift in Cardiff Bay. And that's why Torchwood 3, where this series is taking place is in Cardiff Bay because of that rift. And then
they also mention it again in Boomtown.
Yeah, because that's where the TARDIS
is parked on top of the rift
to refuel.
So, looking at the Doctor Who timeline, when the TARDIS is there on the rift recharging, the Torchwood hub is right underneath them. So that's just a fun little.
And Jack tells the new character Gwen, who was played by Eve Miles, who played Gwyneth in The Unquiet Dead. So, and then they do a little retroactive, so your ancestors live in Cardiff? kind of thing, because it's the same actress. But at one point, Jack takes her out for a drink and tells her about what Torchwood is and why they're on the rift, and things just seep through and find their way through this rift in time. So there's just flotsam, jetsam, different things keep coming through, so they keep collecting it, either trying to send it back or utilize it.
Now, it is interesting how Torchwood has changed from Yvonne Hartman in Doomsday, saying, if it's alien, it's ours. So that's Torchwood 3 was built on the rift as things seep through, but now Jack's in charge. And he does emphasize more of defending Earth. Things come through the rift and we protect Earth from those things. I think Yvonne, if she were there still, and it was her Torchwood, it would be more, when the things seep through, then we use them. I'm not saying that they don't use the technology that comes through the rift. They obviously do, and they do to bad effect in the pilot. But Jack at least you can kind of see subtly trying to change things to the better.
Well, let's talk about Jack, what we know of Jack so far from watching the 2 or 1 season of Doctor Who. He started off in the future. He was a time agent. Then he became a con man looking for other things to sell to other time agents. And that's where we meet him in The Empty Child. In World War II, the London Blitz. He's trying to get the doctor and Rose to buy the ambulance. And then from then on, he is part of the crew. And then in Boomtown, he's in modern day London. We're fighting Margaret the Slitheen as she's mayor of Cardiff. And after that, we get flung into the future again, into Satellite 5. This is the season finale of season 1, where Rose has the core, the heart of the TARDIS in her, and Captain Jack has just been killed by a Dalek, and he comes back to life as the Doctor and Rose leave the future for the present. And that's the last we saw of Captain Jack. And then now we have the pilot, where he's in modern day Cardiff.
Wearing a World War II coat
and running Torchwood.
Yeah. And we don't know how he got there or anything like that. And they don't even answer all that mystery throughout the first season. They hint, but you don't get the full story.
Of his journey, how he got back to present day.
Since that's season 2 and it hasn't happened yet, and the reason we're talking about season 1 is because it aired from October 22nd, 2006 through January 1st, 2007, which was between season 2 and 3 of Doctor Who. So when Doctor Who season 3 starts, everybody has already, who wanted to, watched Torchwood.
That's all we have for now. Back to the first episode of Torchwood. I think it's great. The Gwen character is a very strong character, and the way she is able to still figure out what Torchwood is, despite having the drug erase her memory, I think is a testament to that character. Like, it shows that she's really fighting to figure out this thing, that she's smart and capable.
I like Gwen, and I like how she's a very normal person that gets us into this abnormal world. You know, her boyfriend, we see, I just watched a few episodes recently, and it's very mundane. It's very, you know, the common man is definitely Gwen. And we see that even in the first episode, like she goes from being on the beat with other uniform cops to, by the end of it, she's giving commands to them, and they even resent it a little bit.
Special ops.
Yeah. I like Gwen.
I do too. And isn't it the next episode, the second episode, where we find out she's never fired a gun? He has to teach her how to shoot a gun. It's just kind of like a little difference between our police and their police.
Yeah, it might be. It's one of the first or second. Second
she
or
has
third
no
episode.
experience shooting a gun.
I remember that because she was like, I'm on the beat.
I don't carry a gun. Yeah.
At the end of the first episode, they do something that Joss Whedon wanted to do in Buffy, and that's have a main character be in the opening credits. And then in that first episode, and hopefully you've seen it, or spoiler, this whole thing is spoilers, they kill off that main character. So you think they're going to be in it for the rest of the season, but one of the characters, Susie, you find out, has been killing people so that she can use this glove, which resurrects them for a short period of time so she can figure out how to work the glove, and thinks that their life is more important that she learn about the glove and how to use it rather than the person's life to stay alive. And then that's when there's an opening, and Gwen now is going to take her part as being second in command in running Torchwood. So I think, you know, it's like bringing in a new person. And we're thinking, well, they're just going to add Gwen to this group rather than have to replace
Right. It was
one
a
of their
shock.
own.
Yeah. Yeah, we find out Susie's the bad guy, and then she puts a bullet in Jack's head, and she's going to then kill Gwen. Jack wakes up, stops her, and then she shoots herself, splattering blood on Jack's face. Again, this is not Doctor Who.
Right.
You guys recognize Susie? The actress is Indira Varma.
She was in Game of Thrones.
Yes, she was.
Ooh.
She was the sister of the prince from the other island. Oberon, that's it.
Oh, wow.
She was she was also in Rome, if you guys ever watched that show.
I never would have recognized her.
So she just came back to life to become a horrible assassin again.
Typecasting?
Maybe.
She does a better job, though, in
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Westeros.
The big difference with Jack also is he has a look. They
Yes.
changed it to give him a greatcoat for World War II, where when we saw him in Doctor Who before this, he was a time agent, so that meant you fit in with the surroundings. You would change your clothes to fit in. And so now they said, well, we're doing something that we want an iconic look. So they gave him the trench coat, which is always good. The World War II looked good on him.
Oh, and they utilized it in the first episode, I think, where he's standing on the building and that drone
Oh, yeah.
goes around. There's a lot of beauty shots.
Or the
Of,
tight shots of the feet shots running up the stairs, and his coat is billowing behind him.
So they got that from the doctor. You need a good billowing coat to run in.
Yeah, Jack likes to go up high and stand on tall buildings.
Yes, he does.
Yes.
and
just
survey.
He's Batman.
and just stand there. Yeah, it's very,
During the day,
very Batman.
not during the night.
Yeah.
And every time I see that, I'm like, how did they get away with doing that? I mean, just today, I can't imagine, there would be like, cables
Yeah.
holding on to your talent.
Maybe there were and they removed them.
Maybe.
And Russell said he wanted an angel-like show before Torchwood was introduced. And so he wanted that, and he put Jack in that angel role of the kind of tormented person looking for redemption aspect.
That's interesting.
Sorry to keep bringing it back to the Buffy.
No, but that's
been
what it's
20
inspired
years.
by. So the next direct connection from Doctor Who that we have other than Captain Jack is the fourth episode, Cyberwoman episode, where Ianto has his girlfriend who has been half converted into a cyber person stowed away secretly in the basements of Torchwood 3.
So his girlfriend Lisa was in Canary Wharf during the Battle of Canary Wharf of Doomsday, and so was Yonto. And Yonto got her out before she was fully converted into a cyberwoman. Sad episode.
It's a violent episode too. When you see the Japanese doctor half converted, just his brain. Those practicals look gruesome.
That was different with these Cybermen. They were trying to figure out other ways of upgrading people.
Because they didn't have their full facilities.
Coming here. And so Lisa was an experiment into not just taking the brain out and putting it into a metal body. They were trying to convert the whole human body. And that scene at the the beginning where Lisa was still herself, I thought was really tough, good. I liked it. But you can see where Yanto is still keeping her because there is part of the human still in her. But when the doctor comes to... not the doctor.
The Japanese
doctor comes and turns the power. It's just converted all over into a cyber, which is also different because we mentioned it, a cyber woman rather than just a cyber man. Because Jackie was a cyber man, Yvonne was a cyber man. They got rid of gender, they got rid of all of that, and here they were keeping it as part of the new experimental change.
Well, and they had a costume that definitely showed she was a woman.
Yes.
And this is a good example of the theme, I think, of Torchwood, which is secrets. Everybody has secrets upon secrets upon secrets.
Even the first episode.
Yeah.
Everybody's taking something home when they're not supposed to.
Right. Yeah. And, it's like they have the whole secret of Jack. Everything that has to do with Jack. They have, Yanto has his girlfriend down in the basement that nobody knows about. Gwen's now...
Keeping a secret from her boyfriend.
Yeah, from Reese.
Reese.
Reese, who is the Mickey of this, I think.
Yeah. And turns out to be as great a character, in my opinion, as Mickey. I love Reese at the end of Torchwood.
Should we take this time now to discuss the episodes? Like, we'll just list them.
Just real quick?
Real quick.
Sure.
Yeah.
And, give us a brief little thing. You want to...
Well, the first one, the pilot's called Everything Changes.
And we talked about that one.
And then the second one is called Day One.
I can't believe this is the
Gwen's
second
first
episode.
day on
The job
as part of Torchwood.
with the alien that needs sexual release for energy.
And then kills the person.
Just putting it lightly.
And that's one thing about this whole show, Torchwood. They're very sexual and sexually fluid. I mean, everyone will sleep with everyone at one point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very different. There's no real couple at this point. It's just very different from any other stuff we have watched.
Next episode is Ghost Machine.
That's the one with the device that lands into the, what do you call that? A guy, just a normal guy has it. And then they see visions of the past or the future, depending on what it wants to show the character. Doesn't end with a murder.
And then we have Cyberwoman.
Which we talked about. Well, that ends horribly with Lisa being shot by everybody.
Yeah.
It's a good episode, though.
It's a good episode. It's very
It's just
sad.
dark.
Yanto episode.
Yeah. It's
That's all
sad.
very dark.
And it's great for Yanto's character. He suddenly becomes a person.
He's not just
not the
Jeeves, he's not
T-boy.
just the admin person.
It didn't seem like
pizza.
when they left Yanto, weren't they having a good time? Like when they left Yanto behind, I forget if they were going on a mission, but they seemed to be happier. Like
They
maybe
were playing
all
basketball.
They were playing
inside.
basketball,
yeah,
right.
all the happiness is, but it's in the periphery. Like we
Yeah.
never focus on
No.
it. We only
Right.
focus on the suffering.
Right.
But it does happen.
And
kind of in the
Yanto's destroyed
background.
at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then after that is the episode Small Worlds.
Which is Brian's favorite.
It's so sad. And that was the episode I remember thinking, okay, this show's on a mission to not be like other shows. Because to have the children...
Spoiler.
well,
Just saying.
just to have the children at the end stay with the fairies and not go back to their families.
In this episode, the
It's
fairies
just-
are the bad guys. And
it's
Jack allows a girl to be taken. The theme is with Cyberwoman, we don't save Lisa. In Small Worlds, we don't save the little girl.
No.
Jack allows her to be taken. Like, good lord, this show is sad.
Well, even on episode 2, that was Gwen's issue with Torchwood was
Yeah.
why aren't we using this
To help.
people?
Yeah.
Why aren't we saving people? And it was almost like you wanted Jack to be like, well, that's a different show.
Yeah, it's definitely Gwen's character's purpose to bring a little
Soften the group.
humanity, I guess,
Yeah.
into the group. I don't know how well it works. But
Tough job.
Yeah, it's a tough job. After Small Worlds, then we have Countryside, which
Brian's
is the
other favorite.
and my other favorite one, which is the
Cannibalism
yeah.
episode. Ugh.
And then this is also when Gwen starts to cheat on Reese with sleeping with Owen.
Just don't get that.
I didn't know that happened.
Yes, that happened.
We said spoiler, right?
Man, Owen.
Owen's the worst.
Owen is the worst.
I wasn't looking too fondly at Gwen at that point either, though.
And at one point, Gwen tells somebody that her Torchwood life and her real life to her are two different things. They're totally separate because it's so bizarre in Torchwood. You can't talk to anybody outside that world about what's going on.
That's out of time.
And that her everyday life is every day. And it's not as extraordinary. It's just, that's where I see the whole relationship with Owen fitting in.
Gwen, I love the actress. I watch that actress in anything that
Yeah.
she does. And Gwen does, in my opinion, by the end of the third season, redeem herself. And she's a good character for me to watch. But I never really liked Owen. Beginning and middle, never really liked Owen.
Right.
And Jack frustrated me. Yanto's character went through quite a bit of development through the years. And also, in my opinion, he's good to look at. So, and Tosh, everybody loves Tosh.
It's funny when I see Yanto, I keep thinking that he was in the Army of Ghosts episodes because he looks like one of those guys in Torchwood 1.
Gareth or Matt.
Yeah.
He should
It
have the
looks
ear pod in.
Yeah. He totally looks like he came from there and he got reassigned at the last minute and he's like, oh, I guess I can't go back to the original job I was going to do.
He was snogging Lisa. Oh, no. She was already dating. So they separated. He went somewhere else. So.
Yeah.
Then we have the episode Greeks Bearing Gifts
Which is Tosh's episode
with the pendant.
with the pendant that allows her to be flexible in her sexuality. Another weird one.
And the pendant let her hear people's thoughts, but you don't want to hear these people's thoughts. And a lot of times that whole gimmick is people being the more two-faced, where you really like them and everything's good on the front facade, and then you hear the real things of what's going on.
Yeah, it's the curse of telepathy, which would be
But it's like you don't
Which
like
was
these people
realistic.
on the front anyway on their whole
Yeah.
thing. So it's kind of like, oh,
Yeah, it was weird when she started reading her team members' minds. It's as if we knew what they were saying already from how they were behaving. And, usually it's the opposite in
Right.
a show where you hear their thoughts and you're like, oh, that's funny. Or, oh, they're really a nice person. But no, you're just reinforcing what we already know.
And then we have the episode They Keep Killing Susie. This one I like.
Yeah, Susie comes back.
Yeah, this one is good. I like it because it's interesting and it's a bit more straightforward. You figure out what's happening to Gwen and Susie. It's got a beginning, a middle, an end.
And somebody does get saved. Which
It's a
is
good story.
Which
Yeah,
is
it's just-
rare in this season.
Then we have Random Shoes.
Which is their light episode.
Yeah, you can kind of consider this their Dr. Light episode, but it's more Jack Light. It reminds me a bit of Love and Monsters.
Mm-hmm. I
And
can see that.
that's not a good thing. And then we have Out of Time.
Which is one of their better ones.
Yeah,
But
Out
still
of Time
sad.
is heartbreakingly,
So
but
sad.
heartbreakingly good. And it is not.
In Out
Nobody's
of Time-
saved.
In Out of Time, an airplane arrives, and it's from 1953 with 3 passengers. And so Jack, Gwen, and I think Owen are there to meet the plane when it lands so they can take away the people and explain to them that they're more than 50 years in the future. It's like they just fell through the rift, don't know how to get back. If you go in, history's already happened and reported that your plane's been missing. So it's what do you do? So they start and help them set up new lives.
Like integrate them into modern day society. But it
And-
doesn't work.
Well, it's just depressing. I mean, they give them new names, and then they go, "No, the only we have left is our names. That's the only thing I have." And so they say, "Fine." And one of the men, there's 2 women and a man who come through,
Older man. He's a father. He's not
right? And he goes
single.
to see his son, who is still alive, but
who's suffering dementia.
he's Alzheimer's in a home.
Like, why
His
are
wife
you
has
twisting
died.
the knife at this point?
So he doesn't recognize his father at all, doesn't have any memory of it. It is just heartbreaking. And this character then tries to commit suicide because he can't handle this. His time's gone. He's out of place. And Jack comes in and he's
But in a
he pulled
typical
a car into
Yeah.
a garage and trying to...
but in a typical show, Jack would talk him out of.
Yeah, so Jack comes in, stops him, they talk.
But instead,
Jack helps him commit suicide. He sits with them.
just like, whoa.
In the car while the guy dies. And it's like, seriously, this is just depressing. I mean, I understand the sadness and the choice because they have a whole talk between him and Jack about being out of time and never being in the right.
So there's a
bid with
relatable
anybody
quality
else's.
there.
But it's just very sad. And Owen falls in love with the pilot, who's a female.
And the way he says it is so depressing because he goes, when I met you and when I got to know you, I felt fear. And then she goes, I love you too. Like, what?
But she doesn't want a relationship. She wants adventure. And so she wants to take her plane back into the rift. Because all those things are now, atmospherically the same.
And she wants to take that gamble.
And he doesn't want her to go, but she chooses to leave him. The one person that Owen's ever opened up to, ever felt like he loved. And just like, she goes, well, yeah, that's not enough. And leaves.
Good for her.
But we don't know what happened. It's like, most likely she's dead.
Yeah.
Which is fine. She'd rather die than stay in a relationship with Owen.
I know you hate Owen, but they worked together. It's one of those weird things that they seem to work together. And it was very sad. And the other one is a young 18-year-old girl out of the 50s. And Gwen's trying to tell her that things are changed. She meets a boy and it's like, well, he doesn't want to just kiss and cuddle. There's more going on now. And they have the whole, when was your first time talk and all that kind of stuff. And Gwen helps her get a job interview. And because she's dressed still in 50s stuff, they said that's so chic and in now. You're right on the cusp of the new styling. And so she has a job in London to work. And so that's the only one that's possibly happy. We don't know exactly what happened to her. And by the feeling of Torchwood, we're like, oh, what's going to happen? Is the bus going to crash? Is she going to get into trafficking? Or it's like you never know what goes on with Torchwood.
Sword's going to fall from an alien spaceship in the sky and impale her.
Yeah.
So that was the only one possible happiness of it.
Then the next one we have is Combat.
It's another Owen episode.
And that's...
the Fight Club with the
Fight Club.
Weevils.
Yeah, and Owen's spiral into depression. Interesting, this one's written by Noel Clarke.
Oh, yeah. I remember seeing that.
Mickey wrote this episode. And Gwen stops the affair with Owen in that
So this must be the one that she tells Reese.
Probably.
But what she does is Reese knows something's up and they're not talking. She tells him over drinks, which then goes back to what
Jack did
at the first episode. And so she tells him all. He's pissed at her. And then she says that she drugged him and he won't remember any of this. But she had to get it off her chest.
It's really dark.
Yeah.
Because as he's falling asleep, she's like, say you forgive me.
Tell me, I need to know that you forgive me. And he's passing out.
So it seems like a theme of this season 1 could have been, Gwen comes in wanting to change Torchwood, but it seems like Torchwood changed her.
Yeah. I can see that.
And meanwhile, everybody on the team is saying, this is the best job I've ever had. I'm like, really? This is the best job?
This is the best job I ever had, mostly because of all that out of this world stuff that they're experiencing and seeing.
But it just seems like it ruins their personal lives. That if they were smart, and they are smart, be like, this isn't worth it.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing their duty for Queen and country.
I agree with you. The thing I don't like about the show is that they don't learn from that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
There's no growth. You're right.
It's like Arrested Development, but not funny.
It's like, workplace drama that...
Yeah.
Then we have the episode called Captain Jack Harkness. And this is where Jack and Tosh are thrown back to World War II. And Jack and Tosh meet
the real
Jack Harkness.
And we find out that the real Jack Harkness is so much more attractive than our Jack. And you're like, what?
I thought they were both good looking. Didn't care if one was more than the other.
So your favorite was the dance?
For sure.
Oh, that was sad.
It was such a good part of an episode. I was like, I feel so emotional.
That's a really, really good episode, and it's really sad. It's done well, and the character of Billis Manger is just suitably creepy.
Oof, his cravat.
Only thing that gets me is the dance. No one does anything. Those guys would have been destroyed.
I choose to think that the light blinded them and it caused a little bit of a... No, yeah, they would have died instantly.
Well, at least been quite severely.
Yeah.
They would have been escorted out of the club at the very, very least.
I don't think it was just escort. They would have been beaten.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Escorted.
It's the only thing about that episode where it's like, oh, this is a cute little...
And Rank wouldn't have saved him?
No, but no, Gwen would not have been able to save.
No,
I mean,
Rank, Captain.
I'm sorry.
The fact
Rank
that he was
being
captain.
No.
That
would have been more...
Well, I thought it would have been done later on.
I wish that dance would have been in private.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, the dance should have been in private. Because what they're saying is all of his men saw him do that dance. And then all of those men still followed him the next morning.
Or is that why he died?
Yeah. And they all
They
survived.
didn't cover his back.
That's what I'm saying. Like, we don't really see the aftermath of that.
I
and
want
I
to-
was thinking maybe with the rift opening, it also caused people like
Yeah,
some kind
I
of
think that too.
amnesia or something.
Yeah,
and
we're not
then-
actually seeing
Reality.
literal
Or like-
events that
yeah.
happened. And I like the episode so much that I'm willing to rationalize it in
That way.
any sort of
The
way.
same.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like, this is just good.
These last 2 episodes are really good. I like
Yeah.
both of the season.
Yeah. Because then this leads, you know, when they get back into
Cardiff.
Cardiff present day, this leads into the season finale, which is End of Days, which is where Billis, the creepy man,
the
continues. Yeah. Continues to be super creepy and manipulating events to get the Torchwood team to open the rift.
Well, explain a little bit more. Billis has been using the rift to show them what they really want, their most heart's desire, and they'll get it if they open the rift.
Just like an Impossible Planet.
So Toshiko's mother, Owen, Diane comes back in that for Owen.
Yanto sees Lisa.
Uncyberized.
Yeah, so they all, that's why they all want, and Reese, actually, Gwen sees a vision of Reese murdered. And she absolutely, and yeah, blood everywhere. I mean, it's just like,
On the walls, on the
Ugh.
floor.
and so she's, so they all agree they have to open the rift to fix all this. And Jack's the only one who says no. And so in the fight, Owen murders Jack. And then they, you know, turn and they go to open up the rift, which he
do.
does. And we see the lovely son of a former character on Doctor Who, Abaddon, who is the son of the beast.
From Impossible Planet, Satan Pit.
So yeah, so Abaddon is a demon who's
Trapped in time underneath the rift.
yeah, he was imprisoned in the rift. They open the rift. He comes out. He's, you know,
It's like Godzilla. you know.
yeah, Godzilla tall, and his thing is
With proper horns.
Yeah.
They
if
fixed
you
forward.
fall in
They
it,
fixed-
if his shadow falls on you, you die.
He's the bringer of death.
He's
So-
Abaddon, the bringer of death. And his name was mentioned in Satan Bit.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And so Jack, having immortality, is the only one that can stop Abaddon.
Yes. So Jack runs into Abaddon's shadow, and Abaddon basically, what did you say, like drowns in
all the life.
Jack's life force. He just can't handle all the life force coming out of Jack, and Jack wakes up. And that's also in the last episode of the season. That's when the entire team now knows that Jack is immortal.
So I think that brings us up to what season 1 is and what references it has to Doctor Who that we have so far, but there are a couple more that we can mention. We have Bad Wolf in Captain Jack Harkness
Jack
episode.
There's a graffiti of the dance hall in modern day Cardiff is closed and it's covered in graffiti, and Bad Wolf is written in the graffiti.
And also we get Vote Saxon in that same episode as a poster. And then we talked about this before we started recording, but the actress that plays Tosh appeared in season 1 of Doctor Who in Aliens
Of London.
Of London.
Mm-hmm.
She was the, I guess, medical technician looking over the dead space pig with Christopher Eccleston. And Brian has a reason that how it was retconned.
Yeah, so she was just a day player for that episode. I don't even think her character had a name.
No.
Later on, you know, she got cast as a regular as Tosh and Torchwood. In a season 2 episode, Tosh and Owen are having a conversation. Now in Torchwood, she's the computer expert, and Owen is the medical expert. So in this conversation, there's one point where Tosh says, they're kind of reminiscing, and she goes, "Remember when you first joined Torchwood? Gosh, I think it was your first week, and you were celebrating, and you had that awful hangover, and you couldn't report to work in the morning." She goes, "And so I covered for you. So I went in and I acted like I knew what I was doing." Was this episode? So they retroed it to say that this is Tosh filling in for Owen and doing this medical examination here, which I thought was a clever little way of doing it. It gave it a little character moment as well as establishing why she looks the same.
Then we get this alien, Hoix.
Yeah, the Hoix is also in Torchwood, and that's the alien that appeared at the beginning of Love and Monsters with the big jaw.
With the Scooby-Doo running through the doors.
Scooby-Doo running, yeah.
The red bucket. No, I said the blue bucket.
Well, also at the end of Days, like we said, Torchwood aired, the full season of Torchwood aired between the end of season 2 of Doctor Who and the beginning of season 3. At the end of Days, everything's back to normal. They're all kind of, you know, the rift has been closed, although Jack says it's going to be more active now. Gwen is talking to Jack, and they're talking about the visions that everybody had, that Billis showed them what they all wanted. And she says to Jack, "What would you have wanted? What would you have wanted to see. And his answer is a certain kind of doctor. And she's like, oh, okay. And she leaves. And we see Jack, and he's kind of hanging around. And one thing we didn't mention is the very first episode when Gwen comes into the hub for the very first time. She's carrying the pizzas. She's trying to figure out what's going on. She has that first look around in the hub, and she sees a jar containing a hand.
That's the doctor's hand, right?
Yeah. That's what we find out.
So, it just
Yeah.
seemed.
But everybody's already kind of
Yeah.
decided that it was.
But it was just like a quick shot, and I think you kind of like saw it every once in a while in the background. Well, at this point, Jack's wandering around the hub by himself, and he looks down at the hand, and the hand is bubbling, and there's like a little alarm going off. And you cut back to Jack, and he starts smiling, and you then hear a whoosh, a very familiar whoosh, and Jack smiles, gets bigger. Wind begins to blow in the hub. Papers are strewn everywhere, and Jack runs off. And then a few seconds later, the team come all back into the hub, and they're looking around, and they go, "Where's Jack? He was just here a second ago." Gwen looks around again and says, "Jack's gone. He's been taken. He's not here." End of the season.
So that's all we get.
I love the hub. I love
But
that
why is it so like dirty and dark?
'Cause it's in Cardiff.
It's a subway.
of the
It's a
series.
subway. It's a tube station that's been around for 100 years.
Because whenever we see Torchwood in Doctor Who, they're like all high tech and.
Yeah, that's London.
That's why.
Yeah, London gets the money.
In London, they built the whole thing just to reach.
Yeah.
Like they built a skyscraper just to reach the anomaly.
And then in this, they're like, oh, yeah, there's a hole that you guys can hang out in that's wet all the time. Yeah, that's where you guys get to hang out.
It's the difference between New York and, I don't know, Shreveport, Louisiana. It's like
Cost of living is lower, so it should be like.
but that's also a thing in Torchwood, and also, well, just with Russell in general. He does kind of always say how we've already seen instances where Wales is made fun of in Unquiet Dead. They show up, and Rose is all excited, and the doctor says, "Well, we're not where I thought." I don't care. It's not, it's not 1848, it's 1868. I don't care. Oh, it's not summertime, it's Christmas time. I don't care. It's not London, it's Cardiff. Cardiff? So it's just that running. I think it might be playing into that a little bit. But also, I love the hub. Yeah, it's dirty, but it looks like a converted tube station, haphazard, building what you can around this rift as quickly as possible.
I was also going to mention that the hand in the jar plays a role in Cyberwoman. Wait, is it Cyberwoman?
Not Cyberwoman.
No.
It was
What is it?
the one with the sex.
The second episode.
Oh, just the
alien.
second episode.
Because what happens is that the woman that's infected with this alien entity escapes because Owen, she
picks up the hand, but also
she drops it too.
Jack lets her escape because she's holding the hand in the
jar.
jar,
And then she
And it
throws
means
it
then
something.
she goes after the hand
instead of her.
And so
It's important to him.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
another hint that like
That'll come into play later.
And it does.
So those are all the connections we have to Doctor Who for Torchwood Season 1 at this point.
yeah. So would you recommend a fan of Doctor Who watch Torchwood?
That's a tough question because
You said fan of Doctor Who.
Doctor Who is the middle version of these three shows.
Yeah.
The other two shows being Torchwood and Sarah Jane Adventures. Sarah Jane Adventures skews very much towards the kids, the younger kids. And Torchwood, I mean, it's intended for adults.
How about what episode would you guys suggest if somebody were to see if they were a Doctor Who fan but would also be a Torchwood fan? Which episode from this first season would be a good, like, not necessarily to get the story, but to get the tone, to get, like, if you appreciated,
Definitely the pilot. Everything
Pilot.
changes. Yeah.
And I mean, Cyberwoman sort of correlates, and then Captain Jack Harkness, because you find out about Captain Jack. But even then, I don't even know if you'd be a fan to go back and rewatch the rest of the series or season 1.
I mean, if someone was not a fan of Doctor Who, I wouldn't recommend Torchwood to them at all. If they are a Doctor Who fan, it would
Maybe.
depend. And I would say watch Everything Changes and see how you feel.
So you think someone wouldn't like Torchwood if they had never seen Doctor Who. Like, you have to like
I
Doctor
wouldn't
Who.
recommend. No, I'm sure there are people out there, but I'm saying for me, if I knew someone did not like Doctor Who or didn't watch Doctor Who, I wouldn't show them Torchwood. Except, and I'm going to go there.
Okay.
Season 3 of Torchwood, for me, I know Frank doesn't agree. For me, I think season 3 of Torchwood, which is 5 episodes long, one story, it's like a 5-issue miniseries,
Yeah.
is some of the best television I've ever seen in my life. I love Children of Earth, which is the name of the
Season
serial. I love it. I think it's fantastic, and I think anybody should watch that. But I'm kind of in the minority. I mean, Torchwood fans loved it, but I just know you didn't like it all that much.
I think people who like the new way DC is going with their stories of Superman and Batman would really like Torchwood.
Oh, that's painful.
Wow, that
Can
came
you
from
watch it by itself though?
Torchwood.
No, the season
Children of-
3
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, I think you could.
without having any other context.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'd like to go back a little bit and compliment Frank, because that's something I would say.
But seriously, there are a lot of people who like
They
those
like
movies.
that. Yeah, they do.
And I think they take the negative aspects
Yeah.
of people
And
focus
amplify
on
it.
that and
Yeah.
study that. That's part of what Torchwood does.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how earlier I was saying that I felt that a lot of this Torchwood was out of balance? To me, Children of Earth is where they get the balance right. That to me, because it's horribly depressing. I mean, it's Battlestar Galactica season 4 level depressing. Mm-hmm. To me, it gets the balance perfect.
Well, what do you guys feel about the episodes I recommended you to watch before doing this one?
Yeah, I like it made me look at the Doctor differently. Seeing Jack as running seeing Jack running Torchwood like reminded me of the Doctor a little bit, but also made me appreciate the Doctor more. At least I guess I guess when I watched recently, I knew that Jack was what's it called? He can't die.
Immortal?
I knew that Jack was immortal, and also Jack has more universe experience than the people that these people that he's working at in Torchwood with. So to see him playing with these other people's emotions gave me like a kind of like a skeezy feeling about towards Jack, being like but it reminded me of the times that Arlene and I were critical of the Doctor playing with Rose's emotions, but seeing Jack do it in a more, what's the word I'm looking for? Like just more over the top and like really playing with their emotions made me appreciate the Doctor's restraint in that aspect. And I could be like, oh no, this is what it looks like when someone abuses their knowledge and abuses their immortal.
I kind of gave it a pass for Jack because I have no expectations of his moral character. Just
Makes
what
sense.
they've like built up with his personality already. Like he was hurting people and he
Conning them.
Yeah, conning them. And even when it went horribly wrong, he's like, "Well, I didn't do anything. I just brought space junk."
Right.
It's like I didn't mean it. So yeah, I have no expectation of his moral character. So this is actually something I expected from Jack. I thought he would be worse. And I think having the power balance with Jack and the Doctor makes Jack seem a little mellowed out. And without having that power balance, I could see why he would be so like aggressive in that aspect.
I think the Doctor definitely makes most of the people that he interacts with better just because he has that higher aspiration. Even when he's flawed, or even when the Doctor is flawed, he still draws the people around him to be better. And that's probably, I think when I first watched this, it's been a while, but that's one of the reasons why I feel like Jack wanted to get back to the Doctor, because he knew that he was not necessarily like a bad guy, but he knew that he was doing what it took to achieve the mission that he was on, which wasn't necessarily the right things all the time for everybody, but it was in his mind the best for overall Earth. So getting back with the Doctor would allow him to listen to those better angels and to be a better person himself, which is what we're missing really in the Torchwood, is that
There's no that balance.
yeah, I guess that's what Brian was going for. There's not that person, like even Gwen doesn't have a moral compass on the show to like bring everybody back to humanity. Like when that Out of Time one, when she's trying to explain to the girl from the 50s, well, we're all liberated now, so we can have sex, whenever we want. And the girl asks, well, how many sexual partners have you had? And she gets embarrassed because, of course, there's still the stigma of, well, I don't want to be considered a floozy or whatever it is. And I don't want to tell you that I've, had a handful or however many guys it was. It's still more than this young girl from the 50s has had. So they're all so flawed, and there's no director, there's nobody that's bringing them up above that, or like even trying to push them up above that. They're all just wallowing in this filth of Cardiff.
Watching the 2 episodes you told me to watch, I actually really didn't like the pilot episode. It didn't really call to me in any way, but I like Jack, so watching the episode Jack Harkness, I'm like, oh, that's such a nice episode.
Yeah.
And I would have been okay with it being completely, they would have taken out all the rest of the characters except for the 2 that were trapped in time.
Yeah.
So I had no investment in anyone else except for Jack.
And see, in that episode, they give little character stuff between Jack and Tosh. She learns more about him and cares for him. He says, if we're stuck here, I'll take care of you. She's Japanese in the middle of in World War II, in the middle of the United Kingdom. She's going to have a rough time. So it's there are little moments peppered, but they're so overwhelmed by everything negative.
So that wraps up Torchwood Season 1 and how it relates to the Doctor Who episodes. And just pay attention to those things. And you can watch it on Amazon Prime. Stream it that way. And the DVDs are both available, standard def and Blu-ray.
Because this was shot in high def.
I guess our consensus is we don't really need to watch Torchwood, but that's why we're giving you, the listeners, this little insight of what happens with Captain Jack. Because that was something we had asked in the Children in Need special.
You've just listened to an episode of Who Knew?
Our wonderful theme music is by Michael Grady.
Find him on Facebook
At The Universe Explodes.
All our episodes are engineered by our very own Auburn.
Find me at auburnbinkley.com.
You can find this show in several places.
Follow us on Twitter at Who Knew Podcasts.
Subscribe, review, and listen to us on iTunes and Stitcher.
Or our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Who Knew Podcast.
All our episodes are on whoknewpodcast.com.
You can leave comments there or email us at
whoknewpodcast@gmail.com.
This podcast is inspired by Doctor Who,
the longest running sci-fi show in history,
and especially the revival spearheaded by Russell T. Davis.
Thanks to Russell,
Sydney Newman,
Verity Lambert,
Ron Grainer,
and all those involved in the adventures of our favorite Time Lord.
Your work continues to inspire and entertain.
Captain Jack is still hot.